6 p.m. I'm going to call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order for January 28th, 2025. And we do have Tyler Bouchard remotely, so we're going to do a roll call attendance. Eric here.
And Kim here.
Don here.
Shoot. Missy here.
Tyler here.
All right, and we'll start with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this meeting is recorded by the local scene. Anyone intending to make an audio or video recording of this meeting should notify the chair at this time. And seeing nobody. Financial assistance applications are available on the town's website or by calling the Selectmen's office. We say this every meeting, but for anyone interested in volunteering, there are several vacancies on various committees and boards. To see a complete list of the openings, please visit our website at kingstonma.gov. Also check the website for additional events or notices, again, at www.kingstonma.gov. Some important dates coming up. We have our town meeting, April 26th of 25, and the town election will be May 17th. At this point, any other announcements from the board members? All right. At this time, we'll go to open forum. So if anybody wanted to speak, just raise your hand. Elaine, please.
Elaine Fiore, 60 Cole Street, just a resident. With your budget discussion tonight, I ask that you take the following facts into consideration. In FY24, new growth was $1,700,000, almost double the usual amount, direct result of business initiatives from prior years coming online. In FY20, just a few years ago, the debt was $2,400,000. 5 years later, the debt has rolled off to $175,000, a savings of $2,300,000. The excess levy capacity has been drained from $1.7 million in FY20 to $637,000 to cover operating expenses. This translates to $1.1 million in additional spending. With the new growth amount, the debt rolling off, and the excess levy being spent, $5.1 million of additional revenue has been absorbed into the operating budgets. Based on the facts that I outlined, the town spending has increased by $5.1 million with no end in sight. Wage and Personnel's agenda last night included 3 items that would increase the budget. Reclass the position of Human Resource Manager to Human Resource Director. Add a new position for FY 2026 Public Works Director. Reclass the position of Administrative Assistant in the Selectmen's Office to Administrative Assistant, BOSITHR. Why any time is being spent on new positions or reclassifications is surprising. Over $5 million has been spent in the past 5 years with no thoughts of sustainability. If, and that's a big if, an override is recommended and is successful, what are you going to do next year and the year after? There is no plan from one year to the next, never mind a 5-year plan. A 4.5% budget increase each year is not sustainable. The Selectmen and the town administrator are the ones to make the reductions needed to present a budget that is sustainable for all the property owners in Kingston. Town management needs to put forth a fiscally responsible and sustainable budget. Leaving that task to the residents at town meeting will be pitting one group against another. I'll close by repeating a comment from a resident at the town meeting last year. You can't get blood from a stone. I know these are difficult times. We've had difficult times in the past, but some hard decisions need to be made before the budget gets to town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Carl?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Kyle Pike from Shore Drive. I'm the chairman of the Finance Committee, but I'm here representing myself more so than just the Finance Committee. I want to give you some numbers to kind of continue on with what Elaine said. She said some of the things that I intended to say so that I don't need to repeat those. But let's look at the total budget. The total budget for Kingston back in FY22 was $48 million. FY25, 3 years later, is $58 million, an increase of $10 million. We like to always blame the schools for everything. That increase of $10 million is made up of $5.6 million from education, the schools, and $4.4 million from other departments. Now, I will acknowledge that a big piece of that $4.4 million is the cost of medical insurance and the cost of pensions. I think you've heard me say it before. One of the things that needs to be looked at in the long run is the continuance of retiree medical insurance and the continuance of normal routine pensions. They will bankrupt the town as fast as the school budgets will. These increases amounted to a total of 38.4% over 3 years. About 22% for the schools, 20% for all other, okay? The school number that we hear over and over again from the public, that we need to fund the schools. Of course we do. And we funded them to the tune of a $1.4 million increase in FY23, to a $1.9 million increase in FY24, to a $2.3 million increase in FY25. That's 3 years of $5.6 million, or the 22% that I just acknowledged. And that number includes both the assessment from Silver Lake and the local schools. Now, one of the things that I would suggest, and I think you may see it in your latest budget updates from the town administrator, is that the state aid for education has been increased by almost $500,000 this year. If we were to take that $500,000 and add it to the 4% budget increase that we would like to see from education, we would be seeing the total budget for education increasing by about $1.7 million, or about 5.5%. So I will put that out there tonight. If anybody from the school committees are here and listening, I would suggest that a beginning compromise is that, perhaps we can all agree with this $500,000 increase and go from there. I also want to talk just a bit about the fire budget and the police budget, okay? We increased the fire budget $300,000 in FY25. We increased it another $300,000 in FY26, or in the proposed budget, okay? That 2 years, approximately 8%. So again, we are funding the fire budget. We approved 4 additional firemen. The police budget, we increased that budget $600,000 last year with the new police chief coming into town, 14%. For current budget, we would propose increasing it probably another $500,000, or another 10%. So that's $1.1 million that we are suggesting is reasonable to go into the police budget at this time. So between those two departments, we will have funded them an increase of $1.6 million over 2 years, about 21%. So that is the reason why I'm standing here as an individual saying that I will not support a Proposition 2.5 override, and I believe that the Finance Committee is probably 50-50 whether as a total they would begin to support it. The last thing that I will say is that in making your decisions concerning budget increases for this year, I encourage you to remember to look forward. Sometimes I think we worry too much about the current year, but looking forward, I would expect that the town is going to have to spend somewhere between $5 and $10 million to replace the 2 school roofs. One of the school roofs has already been approved, and by the time we get done, I suspect that it'll be at least $5 million for those 2 school roofs will be Kingston's share. The police station, if we build a new police station, it's going to be somewhere upwards of $20 million. If we add a big addition to the fire station, I would guess that would be another $5 million or more. With Silver Lake continues to talk about a new admin building. That would probably provide another $5 million or so of debt. So the long and short of it is, we could very easily be putting $40 million worth of debt onto our balance sheet over the next 2 or 3 years. That $40 million, even if you pay it off over 30 years, will cost the town approximately $80 million. That will add another $500 or $600 to every residential taxpayer's bill every single year. The current budget that you're looking at, including the $500,000 for additional education that I think you're going to look at, would probably increase the average taxpayer's budget, taxpayer bill by another $400, okay? So that's before you're looking at any Proposition 2.5 override. So depending on the size of any Proposition 2.5 override, we could be looking at increasing residential tax bills by another $1,000 before we even get to the debt increases that we're going to see over the next few years. So I encourage this board to strongly consider these numbers when looking at the budget. The last thing I would say is, I know I don't have to remind you, but I'm going to. You are all elected to represent all citizens in the town of Kingston, not just school students, not just the elderly, not just the middle-aged people like myself, but all residents of Kingston. I encourage you to remember that and keep that in mind. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Carl. Did we have somebody online, did you say? Pine? Okay. Pine, if you'd like to speak.
I'll
go
wait.
ahead.
I'll wait till a better time for you guys. You go ahead with your decisions.
Was there anybody else here in the room that wanted to speak? No? Okay. All right. Our first appointment is going to be a discussion on proposed changes to the aquaculture regulations recommended by the Shellfish Constable, Dan Cullivan. And Dan's here, if you wanted to stand up and speak to this. And we all have copies of this in our packets that were mailed out.
Yeah, Dan Cullivan, 39 Rocky Nook Ave, Shellfish Constable. Last month when we met, excuse me?
Oh, nothing.
Oh, okay. Last month, we decided that we were going to allow for additional names to be added to the aquaculture grants. And I've added language to the rules and regulations to provide for that. And basically, that's just up for vote, I guess, tonight.
Yeah. So if you guys can see, it's just some added language. It says the town of Kingston shall allow additional immediate family members' names added to any existing or future grant for the purpose of carrying on a family business, provided that the family member resides and will continue to reside in the town of Kingston. And that was the language that was added. Anything else you wanted to add to that before, or if anybody has any questions for our constable?
I know there was discussion at a prior meeting from Selectman Bouchard about some other potential changes to the shellfish regulations. Is that something we're working on for a future discussion, or?
Well, that has nothing to do with the aquaculture, so
It's part of the same regulations. I understand it's not the
Yeah.
thing that we talked about at the last meeting, but I wasn't sure if that was something we were going to be talking about in an upcoming meeting, or just hold off for now. Tyler, did you want to weigh in on that? I know you brought up that we should look at those regulations again.
Yeah, hey everybody. Sorry I can't be there in person. Just sick kids, turned the parents sick as well, so here I am. Yeah, me and Dan had a conversation a few weeks ago about looking at other towns to see what they have for regulations as far as if you don't farm your lease, what would be the stipulations to what would be the stipulations for you to lose that lease? So if for instance, you haven't fished, you haven't farmed that lease, the aquaculture lease, in 2 years or a year, or you haven't met some type of a certain quota, what will we have in place to then remove that lease from said person? I mean, I think it's more of just like making sure we're. It's something we had talked about with our previous shellfish constable. We didn't get to that part, but when I brought it up to Dan a while ago, I didn't follow up with him very directly about it, but I will now. So if we can get this maybe going in the next month, that's something we can either look at or adopt. It just makes sense to have a minimum amount of quota. I don't know what that is yet, for shellfishing, for oysters, but we want to have some type of a way to measure that if a whole season goes by, we want to know why that isn't being farmed, because there's only 3 leases in the in the town, and so if somebody isn't, we'd like to know why, how, and then what kind of. In my opinion, I think what kind of tools we'd have to move on to somebody on the next on the list. So I think it's just a decent housekeeping thing that we can probably take some language from some other towns.
Well, actually, we have a change. We have 3 leases out there, and 2 of them, current leaseholders, are here in the building, and they've been doing it for 15 years. I don't see any foreseeable changes in their status. The third man, I spoke to him this afternoon. He's giving his up. So what I'm going to do is offer it to the next person on the list who's been waiting 15 years for it. So with that said, I can't imagine that somebody just coming in would be subject to those kind of restrictions or rules that you're just getting started. And the 2 that have been doing it for so long, they know what they're doing, and they're not going anywhere.
Well, and we can certainly talk about it at a future meeting,
Yeah.
too. I think the intention of having a minimum quota was that so that people understood, we expect you to use this lease.
Oh, yeah,
Otherwise,
absolutely. Yep.
you have to have a good reason to have some sort of a
Yep.
waiver to that.
Well, that's
rule.
something to consider, which I haven't at this point. I'm pretty
Sure,
new to this
no
position,
problem.
so.
No problem.
Yeah, if I could weigh in just real quick, Dan, I think the whole thing is if we have to revisit this in 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, we just at least have it on the books. You know what I mean? So, but I can talk to you some more about it, and we can go from there. But I think it's something that's just to kind of tighten up our regulations in the future, but it doesn't have to be done today.
Okay. Sounds good.
I had no questions about the change proposed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions?
No.
And if not, does someone want to make a motion?
I move the Board of Selectmen accept the aquaculture regulations as presented.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, it's got to be roll call. Eric, aye.
Kim, aye.
Don, aye.
Missy, aye.
Tyler, aye.
We want to hear the echo. Tyler, aye. Tyler, aye.
No, we don't.
We had a meeting a couple months ago where there was some audio issues, and he just kept echoing, and Tyler, aye, Tyler, aye. Anyways,
not do
that's
it
been
again.
resolved, so that's good. Next item, and if you just want to stay there, this is also recommendations from the Shellfish Constable for shellfish fees and regulations. We're looking at proposed increases for fees. Dan, did you want to address this?
Yeah, we looked at that, and after some careful consideration, it hasn't increased in a number of years, so I decided to go $10 increase across the board, including those who got it for free last year. They'll now be paying $10.
I have some questions on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
First thing is, can this be something that's, I guess, kind of cleaned up in the sense that it's a discount to veterans and it discounts to 62 and older? So, like, my proposal would be something like $50, 62 and older, is a $15 discount, and veteran is another $10 discount. So if you're 62 and older and a veteran, you would have a $25 discount, but it just seems a little cleaner than this.
So
I had
you're,
a similar idea too. Yeah.
can you repeat, so you're saying $50?
So right now, we have residents 70 and older, 62 to 69.
Oh, I get it.
14 to 61. I'm saying a single discount to 62 and older, and a single discount to veterans.
Or a single discount to both, which is what we do with Grace Beach, right? So they have like a resident sticker price, a non-resident sticker price, and then a discount for seniors and veterans.
Yeah, something,
A little more straightforward. I did find the chart itself a little overwhelming. There's a lot going on here. I agree, I think we could simplify it, but I don't know what the right numbers are, I guess. So they range from $10 to $110.
Right,
I mean, I would say keep non-residents as is.
right.
At the recommended price of $110.
Yeah.
110.
And then, again, I just threw those numbers out there, but that would be 50, it would be 35, I guess, for 62 and older, based on the numbers I just threw out there. And then,
Could you just do a $15 off whether you're a senior or a veteran?
yeah,
It's
I didn't know if we
confusing.
wanted to have both, so you could stack. If you're 62 and older and also a veteran, then you have a stacked discount, but it
Well, they don't
doesn't.
stack it now, right? Or they do?
They do. Well,
So confusing.
actually, no, I don't know. Probably not, because it's probably, no, veteran resident
Yeah.
would be 10. Well, it is discounted, though.
So what you're saying
So
is a
there it is
resident.
stacked, technically.
Yeah, a resident veteran would be $20 under your
Yeah.
thing, because you're, just to simplify it, 110 for non-resident. For a resident, it's $50, but you get a $15 discount for being either over 62 or 15 for being a veteran.
That's what I was proposing.
Yeah, that's-
One
But you can have
discount.
both.
And those are just random numbers, but yeah, that would be that was my recommendation, I guess. We can obviously play with the numbers, though.
Dan, does this make sense to you? I mean,
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, sorry.
So what I guess I was proposing is kind of cleaning up the chart itself and having we'll stay with residents 14 to 61, which is $50. And then anyone 62 or older would be a discount, and any veteran would be a discount.
yeah.
Gotcha. Resident 50, which is what I have, right?
And then non-resident 110.
Non-resident 110.
a resident
62.
So it ends up being a little bit,
15 and 10, but it doesn't
$15
matter.
discount.
it ends up being a little bit higher than what
It
he's
does,
proposing.
technically.
From the 50.
For the resident, right.
So it'll be 35.
And Don was suggesting if you're a veteran and 62, it would be 30 off instead of just the 15. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah,
Honestly, it's
Tyler, do
pennies
you,
more, but it's also
yeah.
just cleans up this
Simplifying
chart.
Tyler, did you kind of get this? Do you have any questions?
No, I'm fine with the simplification of it. That's fine.
Okay. Any other questions? And if not, well, hold on, is there anything else here on the back? No, it's just more information. If there are no other questions, do you guys want to someone want to make a motion?
Any issues that you foresee that we're missing by changing it like this?
I just have a question.
Yeah,
Residence is one fee, non-residence another, and then the discount is only,
For residents.
For
Because right now, we're
residents that
not
are
doing
62
non-resident.
over.
non-residents, currently, a non-resident veteran gets a discount.
No, they don't. Well,
Yes,
based
They
on
do.
this,
It says
same pay.
same pay schedule as residents.
So if you are a
Oh,
40.
same pay as a resident.
Right.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
So
I read
if
that.
you,
I was reading it wrong.
okay.
So with what you're saying, then residents 62 to 69 would be 35 instead of 25, because they get a $15 discount, is that right?
yeah, that's what he's saying.
Well,
Yeah, so then I would say non-resident veterans just get the same discount.
So $15 off,
Only a veteran, not
Yes.
someone over 62.
right?
Yeah.
Because we didn't have a discount for that before.
well, if we're going to do that, can we change the residents 70 and old that are free again? Leave them free?
We can do anything. I mean, that's the point of voting on this and discussing it. Keith has a comment.
Hold on, sorry, can I ask one question? So what would be the proposed for the non-resident veteran? Because before it was, how much was it for a non-resident veteran before this?
It says the same pay schedule as residents.
You would pay whatever
So-
it was as a resident would pay,
Right.
from 14 to 61, or 62 to
so
69,
confusing.
and 70 would be free.
Okay, and so we're proposing, so are we going to leave that now?
Well, I was just saying they would get the same discount, which was, I guess, $15 is what we were discussing.
It's a big jump for them.
And we do.
They're non-residents.
Currently, we have 32 non-residents. We have 46 residents between 14 and 61. Then we have 55 who are either resident veterans or residents over 62.
Yeah.
So 32 non-residents. I don't know. Either way makes sense to me. If we want to allow non-residents to get the $15 discount of being a veteran, I think that's fine.
Seems fair.
Yeah, it does seem
Yeah,
fine.
I'd like to keep the non-resident veteran discount in place.
The
Okay.
non-resident veteran discount in place that gave them the same schedule as the residents? Tyler?
That's not what we're proposing right now, right?
No,
We're
no, I
proposing-
just want to make sure that that's not what you were saying.
Right, I'm fine with it scaling with
The
what we're doing.
$15 off.
The
I just want to make sure
$15 off.
they're still getting the discount.
Okay, so we're talking about resident, $50, non-resident, $110. If you are a resident 62 or over, or a veteran, you get a $15 discount. And non-resident veterans also get a $15 discount. Okay.
So you're saying not stackable, though? Which is,
I'm just
either
trying
way
to
is
make it
fine,
the
I just
least
want to know.
confusing.
So, my thought was if you stack it, that kind of brings the prices back to the
You're back at
proposed fee.
$30
We do
off.
have a question.
Yeah.
I'll allow it. You just
Yeah.
go up there.
I don't know, I was trying to get this less confusing, and I don't think it's working.
John,
It
well,
would be once it's written down.
I'm over 70, and you know what? That's a huge jump that you're proposing.
So you'd be going
Lifetime
from,
of
To-
digging clams in Kingston finally hit the magic number.
Yeah, so it's
And it's going
free.
to be $25 instead of free.
Be 10.
no, it'd be,
No, it would be,
it'd be
No, 62 and
35.
over.
it would be 35.
You're 70 right
Be 35.
Per year, though, right?
It ought to be free.
So
It would be 35, but it's per year license, right?
it is. So
It's
it's going from free,
So-
go ahead.
A 350% increase at $35.
Okay.
Going from free to something is, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when do you get a break in this town?
Well, we've got,
You've just made huge increases.
We
correct.
haven't voted on anything.
Yeah, we haven't.
We're discussing it.
Right,
I'm just fighting for the old timers who still go clamming,
yeah.
It's fair.
who can still do a day's work.
Right. All right, any thoughts?
Thanks.
Thank you.
I mean,
So on the veteran, non-resident, I'm sorry to be redundant and not the smartest one in the group here. What would be what would they pay right now if we're changing it? A non-resident veteran would pay how much?
So a non-resident, the base fee is 110. What we're saying,
No.
His question was, what do they pay now?
do they
Oh,
pay
what do they
now?
pay now?
Anywhere between.
Pay 100.
It would be based on their age.
right,
Free and $40. Anywhere between free and $40.
Yeah, that's a group of people I think that's a huge increase for that group of people in particular. I mean, that seems a little aggressive.
So do you want to just put it at the resident schedule? Is that what he's proposing?
I'm fine with leaving the veterans as resident schedule as well, non-resident and resident. Unless there's an argument against it, I don't know. Seems like it's a small group of people that we're then trying to get a decent amount of money out of.
I'm not sure that the jump is where I'm focused. I'm more focused on trying to make this simpler.
Yeah.
So if it's the dollar amount where we have the issue, then fine, that's fine. I'm just trying to make it clearer.
I think we have to keep in mind, too, that it's 6 months, and it's obviously tide dependent, so it's not like they're using this every day, so I think just thoughtful on that. It's not, it is a year license, but they can't use it, obviously, all year.
so
You wanna
I
say
think
70 over free then?
to address his concern about going from free to $35. What are our thoughts? We're not talking about a massive amount of money. We don't have that many permits, but we've also had lots of people here talk about our budget going through the roof. You know, and we also don't want to tax people to death, and this is a tax,
Or a user fee, right?
right?
Right.
Can we just run down all the numbers that we've got on the page here and
Yeah.
tell me what you're proposing, because I'm out in left field here right now.
I was typing it up right now, just so we can put it on the board, but,
Okay.
Truly, I was trying to create less categories.
Yeah.
well,
Perhaps
this is
that's
still
more
less,
of a
but,
problem.
yeah.
These have been the categories all along. I just basically
Understood.
added $10 to all of them.
Yep.
You know what, Dan? I think maybe what you were proposing was easier than whatever this was. So,
It's just less money. What we were proposing is
I was just trying to
higher.
make it easier,
Right, but we also increased it, so
I guess.
there are no free, in the proposal here, there's nothing free anymore. But what Dan was proposing is going from, for each of the ones that were
$10, right.
free to $10.
Hey, if people haven't had an issue with this chart in the past, if it ain't broke, maybe we shouldn't try to fix it.
Who's selling the, is it?
Fine, too.
Selectmen's
Just so,
office
just so
that's
people, that was what I was
Oh,
discussing. I can make it bigger, yeah. Hold on.
Yeah.
I feel like the selectmen's office has.
I can read it
I
here.
just don't know if it's less confusing, which was my goal. All right, whatever. Just go with
I
Dan's
can get that.
recommendation.
All right, I guess.
It's not
that's
worth fighting
fine,
about.
too.
When we're dealing with a $60 million budget and we're haggling over $15, I just,
Well, no, I'm just
I don't-
saying.
I'm happy with the
Seemed
proposed fees.
let's just do it.
low. All right.
as
All right,
are-
so we're
as
just
listed.
going back to Dan's recommendation, which is $10 for 70 and older, 25 for 62 to 69, 50 for residents 14 to 61. Resident veteran 70 and over is 10. Resident veteran 62 to 69 is 10. Resident veteran 14 to 61, 25. Non-residents 110. Although we probably don't have many resident veterans at 14, unless we
Who
count Boy
knows?
Scouts.
Who knows?
True story.
So, we good? Move to approve
Okay.
the recommendation from the Shellfish Constable for the 2025 shellfish licenses as he presented them.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All right, all those in favor, Eric, aye.
Kim, I.
Don, aye.
Missy, I.
Tyler, aye.
All right,
Sorry, Dan.
thank you. Didn't mean to make it confusing.
It's all right. I also have a new shellfish map that I
Oh,
proposed.
right, yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that.
We did see it in the packet.
We've been using the
To
same
approve
map
that.
for a long time, and last summer, I had so many people ask me, where's the flagpole? Where's the boat ramp? Where's this, where's that? So I thought I'd clean it up a little bit, and hopefully this will make it a little more legible.
Yeah, this is great.
No, this looks great. And to be clear, even though you can shellfish here, you can't park anywhere here to access that shellfishing.
Right.
Correct, except for Gray's Beach? that
Gray's Beach,
true?
what about Gray's Beach?
Is that, Gray's Beach is the only parking area to access?
Well, those
shellfish.
who are outside the town have to pay a $40 parking fee. And anybody in the town should be able to park there, right? If they have a sticker.
Right,
See the sticker, right.
right. I just wanted to make sure there isn't any other place for parking, right? It's all residential,
Right,
right?
yep.
Okay.
You just gotta run real fast.
Park real quick, dig and run. Got it.
All right, anything else for us, Dan?
No, I don't think so.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is discussion of removal and trimming of 2 trees in the front of the Adams Center. We have Facilities Manager Robert Cuoco is requesting a discussion regarding the 2 large trees in front of the Adams Center. Both trees are diseased and should be taken down. They've hired an arborist who is recommending the removal of the tree on the right side of the building walkway, looking at the building from the road, and the arborist has suggested that the tree on the left could be significantly trimmed back, but there's a 50-50 chance of the tree surviving. We have additional information in our packet to review. Keith, anything to add?
Yeah, so we wanted to bring this forward. It could be potentially an issue that some people aren't going to be happy with, the removal of trees. It's a maintenance safety issue right now, very candidly. The idea is we would replant some, obviously, much smaller trees in the spring. But we tried to, Rob identified an issue. We brought an arborist in because it was the right thing to do to make sure that those trees, as old as they are, can't be saved. We can certainly trim back, and we tried very, and without, just covering over some of the branches that would have to be cut back on the other tree that could potentially be saved. It would be significantly cut back if you look at the picture, with only a 50% chance of surviving. So we're just looking for the board's decision on whether they want to remove both trees or remove just one and cut the other one way back. We had it on the agenda in case anybody wanted to come in and speak and was aware of what was happening and why. Be happy to try to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Well, just looking at the report from the arborist, it looks like they don't recommend getting rid of one of the trees, but they recommend pruning it.
You can
a
prune it back,
lot.
and they're saying it's a 50% chance of survival, and if it doesn't survive, we'll have to, expend the additional money to take it down. The thought was if we replace them both, if the board wants to do that, they'll both be able to grow simultaneously like the existing ones have, and maybe look a little more appropriate as they grow out.
Where is this money coming from?
The maintenance budget.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Any concerns from conservation?
We didn't ask him. No, there. I mean, again, I think everybody understands that it's really a safety issue. We I wish there was a way to try to save these trees. They obviously have been there for quite some time and really fit the area very, very nicely. But we don't want to see anybody get injured either walking down the sidewalk or walking near the building. So we did the due diligence to make sure that the removal was could be supported, and we bring that forward tonight for any thoughts you have.
Any other questions, or someone want to make a motion?
Well, it's sad, but I understand it. It's just, they're big, beautiful trees.
Yeah, they're big,
It's sad.
beautiful, there's no question. We hate to do it, but.
So we need to decide whether we're going to remove both trees or we're going to try to save one, but obviously.
They're sort of sister trees, though. If you
Yeah.
look at the building and you look
Yeah.
at the pictures in the report, they're the same size. They're what, 2 feet difference? Right next to each other. So if we're going to plant replacement trees, we're better off planting them at the same time. Or
I
they're going
agree.
to grow.
Yeah, yeah. It would, I think it's gonna aesthetically be significant if we
Right.
take one and
Yeah.
plant something different. It's gonna look funky.
Sad.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and make that
Didn't think we'd be
motion
making
then.
decisions on trees here
I
on the
know.
Board of Selectmen.
I will make a motion. I move the Board of Selectmen approve the removal of both of the trees, and plant new saplings in the spring to replace the good ones. Make them better ones. What are the replacements gonna look like? I should have asked before my motion.
Replacement cost? Is that what
No,
you
I'm
asked?
just asking
No.
what
are they
what
gonna
kind of
be?
trees, like
What's
what-
your,
We'll try to replace them with the same trees that are there now.
okay,
Yeah, that would be a bigger discussion.
okay.
So we'll have that discussion, it'd be something that
Something native. Okay. Right. Missy made the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Eric, aye.
I mean, but I want to say no, but I
Don, aye.
Missy, I?
Tyler, aye.
I
All right,
am not excited
we're
about
good.
it.
Just on real quick, on another note, with regards to the Adams Center, again, we found some significant rotting on the pillars in the front door. The building has been deemed historic, so we're going to have to go through a much more significant process to identify and replace, which will be much more expensive, because the building's been deemed historical. So Rob has reached out to the Historical Commission to see if they have any interest in participating, and we will move forward with addressing those repairs as quickly as we can, just to make sure everybody's aware.
All right, next item is approval of manager change for Pisano's Restaurant. We had an application received from Pisano's to change the manager's name to Carla Nunes Hannert Piper. Did I pronounce that correctly? Okay.
Good evening, David Lawler. I'm the attorney for the restaurant and have known Silvio and Carla. I'm actually from Barnstable, but they have another restaurant in Barnstable that has been in existence for about 5 years now. And we had a prior manager who moved on. She was wonderful, Maria, but having Carla, I have to be very careful of my Boston accent with that. We decided it's best to have an owner in charge where there won't be any more change coming in. She has significant experience in the other restaurant in all aspects as the owner. That's why I put down as owner. We all know when you're the owner of the restaurant, chief cook and bottle washer, as they say. I have a form that I'll be handing in. She is tips trained. I just received her tips training, which I'll provide you for your file. Again, between her and her husband, she will be primarily focused up here in Kingston. He's back and forth. He's 50-50, but he'll, between Hyannis. But Carla will be primarily in and responsible. Gone over with her the various requirements of liquor law, especially, the issue of, minors in the 5 years I've known them, and Barnstable's, and I'm sure Kingston is as well, is very strict in their enforcement, and they have had no issues in the past, and we strongly recommend that you approve her as a manager of Pisano's. And we also hope that if it gets approved, you guys come by for dinner. The food's fantastic.
Do we have any questions from the board? Keith, is there anything that we need to add?
No, everybody has reviewed and approved the transfer, so it's the boards, if they're comfortable, can approve the request.
All right, any questions? No? Tyler, do you have any questions?
No, all set, thank you.
All right, would anybody like to make a motion?
I move the Board of Selectmen approve the change in manager at Paisano's Restaurant to Carla Nunes Hannert Piper.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Eric, aye?
Kim, I.
Don, aye.
Missy, I.
Tyler, aye.
All right, we're good, thank you.
Thank
We will
you.
be, I haven't been there yet
Oh,
for
it's
dinner.
fantastic. It really is.
Yeah.
Get the chicken farm. It's unbelievable.
Right. And David, it's good to meet you in person.
Yes.
You did my mom's estate. I talked to you a lot last summer. I was like, wait a minute, I know this guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to shake your hand, I'm sick. All right. Additional items. We're skipping over to number 2.
Okay.
Recommendation from Recreation Commission for 2025 beach stickers. The commission voted at their January 13th meeting to recommend that beach sticker rates remain the same. Beach sticker sales will begin on April 1st. Below are the fees. Resident $20, non-residents $40, seniors and veterans a $5 fee reduction. Is there anything, is Rec Commission here? I can't, oh.
Yeah, and
I was stretching, but yes.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to speak to this.
So I can speak to, when we voted this in, some of the conversation that came up was, when was the last time that we voted in increase? And at the time, we thought it was a year ago, but after looking it up, it was 2 years.
Yeah.
So that, since we made that recommendation. And then the other thought was a collective conversation about increase in water and sewer at the time. We didn't want to tax our residents with more fees, so that was the conversation.
And you said something about how we're not allowed to raise non-resident higher than double.
Yeah, so when we renovated, and Sue can help me with this if I don't say it properly, but when we renovated Grays Beach with the grants that we received, there was a rule in there, a regulation that we needed to go by for sticker prices. We couldn't double a non-resident sticker.
More than
double
Okay.
the non-resident. Is that accurate? Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
We sell out of these, right? The Grays Beach stickers?
Only the non-resident stickers.
Non-residents,
We
okay.
did 1 year because we literally ran out of stickers, but we have since then purchased, I hope, plenty.
And how many stickers do we
Actual
typically
stickers.
sell in a season-ish? Doesn't have to be exact. Sorry.
How many stickers did we sell?
2,000? Close to 1,000? Between resident and, okay.
But is that also including the dump stickers?
No, that's
No,
just
okay.
the Grays Beach sticker.
Just
So,
Grays Beach.
Unpopular suggestion, probably. But when we think about user fees, so when we think about the services that the town provides and we think about user fees, we'll be talking about this later with transfer station stickers. I guess I'm leaning more toward, we should be looking at increasing sticker fees so that people who use the service are the ones paying for the service. So the money that comes in from the stickers goes into the general fund, right? No, where's it go? It does.
Goes to general fund.
It goes to the general fund, and then that money will show up on the revenues as recreation collected, correct? No, I know that. So we get a nice little sheet in our budget that shows how much money we're getting back in revenue sources from various departments. So it would be, it would show us that like recreation's giving the general fund X number of dollars. So my thinking was, well, I appreciate that people don't want to increase the burden on residents. My thinking was we should increase the burden on the residents that are using specific services. So if, for example, if my kids go to summer camp, maybe we pay a little more for summer camp. If I want a Grays Beach sticker, maybe I pay a little more for a Grays Beach sticker. So I'm not looking at, millions of dollars here, obviously, but I'm thinking maybe we should consider resident, I don't know, $50, and non-resident, $100. It's not going to be a showstopper in someone's personal budget, but it puts more of the cost of some of these services on the people using the services. And that's where my mind has been as we've been approaching this budget this year. I think we talked about it a little bit last year too, but we didn't do it.
What were you saying about doubling the,
It just means the non-residents have
Can't.
to be equal, it can't be more than double the
Because
residents.
of the grants
resident?
that
I got
they
it, I
got.
got it.
Yep.
Okay.
It was one of the regulations that we
Yep.
were given.
So
That grant.
we can't just go up in non-residents, we'd
Right.
have to up
Correct.
the residents in order to be able to up the non-residents.
And those are
Yeah.
exactly part of the
Right.
conversation we had. And I think we also have to keep in mind too, that there's a playground there. And people like to use that.
But the
So-
transfer stickers do
Absolutely.
the same thing.
Yep, and the
you could do
shell
it for
fishing
parking.
as well
Yeah.
needs a sticker.
And you could
when
do
they
the
go.
$15 discount, just like we did for we talked about, we didn't do it, I guess.
Oh,
For
yeah,
the
yeah.
shellfish.
Instead of
Do-
5?
Instead of 5, make it 15. I don't know, just a proposal. I know the rec commissioners didn't talk about it at their meeting, so it's just, we're sort of,
I know.
their
I guess my-
recommendation was 20 and 40.
My comment to that, though, is only that I actually fully support that idea, but we didn't just do it to the shellfish. So now we're basically saying,
We went up
rec people, you
$10.
should go up
We did go up.
We went up $10
on
across the
a,
board.
on a
So if
50,
you,
so
so
a
then
20%
you could
increase
go
then.
30 and, and 50, if you want to stay with that.
Yeah.
We're 30 and
I think
30 and
it
60,
should probably.
is that what it is?
It should probably be, if we're pushing burdens onto those who use, it should probably be it should be same percentage.
Equitable percentage
Yeah,
or
equitable percentage.
equitable thought
At least
of
to
the
me.
cost.
Sure. Well, I wrote down this idea before we had our lovely debate about the shellfish stickers, so.
I would recommend maybe even a little bit higher, but, 35 and 70 or something.
Someone's just got to make a motion, I'm going to see if it sticks.
I think based on the fact that the Recreation Commission didn't want to increase it, I think increasing it that significantly is a big jump this year. I think it's something we could take back to the table next year.
Yeah.
But I would be in
That's fair.
favor of increasing it 30/60. I think that's fair. And keeping the $5 fee reduction the same for seniors 62 and over and veterans. And see how it plays out. We're also tide dependent, so that's, you're not using it during those tide hours too, so that's something to keep in mind.
So does someone want to make a motion with
Do you want to make that motion?
dollar
Sure.
amounts?
I move the Board of Selectmen approve the 2025 beach sticker fee schedule as followed: residents 30, non-residents 60, keeping the seniors and veterans to a $5 fee reduction.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Eric, aye?
Yeah, I'm a no.
Oh, you could have just skipped yourself.
I know. Yeah, that's a good
Did
point.
you not vote?
I was waiting for the nays,
Oh, no, sorry, yeah.
but
We're
I'll
done.
say no now, that's fine. Tyler?
Hold on.
Missy, did you vote?
Yes, I'm a
Okay.
yes, sorry.
I'm behind here,
No,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm a yes.
Okay, so that's a 3-2.
Yeah.
Don and I opposed. That's fine.
Are you opposed because you didn't want to raise it, or you wanted to raise it
No,
more?
I'm still going with we need to put the
Yep.
user, we
So
need
you
to
wanted it
continue to,
higher.
we need to
Okay.
continue to increase user fees so that we can
Fair
support
enough.
our
Yeah, no,
budget
fair
a little
enough.
better.
All right, next item is appointment of interim tree warden. Due to the retirement of the superintendent of streets, tree and parks, the position of tree warden is vacant. The interim superintendent of streets, trees, and parks is willing to be appointed as the interim tree warden.
We should have probably done that one first and then asked him about the trees.
Yeah, no kidding. Anything to add? Any questions?
I
If
don't
not,
have any.
I
Any
move the board of-
concerns?
Oh, sorry.
No, okay.
Thank you for stepping up, as always.
I move the Board of Selectmen appoint Sean Turner as interim tree warden effective immediately through June 30th, 2026.
Second,
All right, all those in favor, Eric, aye.
Kim, I.
Don, aye.
Missy, I.
Tyler, aye.
All right. Congrats. And thank you. Yeah.
Just add that into your resume.
Right.
Oh, boy.
All right, and now we have an appointment of the Central Plymouth County Water District Commission member. Currently, the Kingston seat on the Central Plymouth County Water District Commission is vacant. Sheila Vaughn was the previous member for Kingston. Commissioners are appointed by an advisory board, which is composed of representatives from each of the 8 communities in the district: Brockton, East Bridgewater, Halifax, Hanson, Kingston, Pembroke, Plimpton, and Whitman. The law requires that the advisory board consists of a member of the Board of Selectmen or other person designated by the Board of Selectmen for each of the towns in the district, the mayor of the city of Brockton or his designee, and a member of the city council of said city to be appointed by the mayor. Advisory board members serve without compensation. Oh, that's a bummer, right? No. Meetings are held 2 to 3 times per year. So this can be somebody from the select board, or it can be somebody that we appoint.
So Conservation Agent Matt Pinella has expressed his interest if you guys are interested in considering him.
Sounds good to me.
That's a great idea.
All
I
right.
move the Board of Selectmen appoint Matt Pinella as the Kingston representative on the Central Plymouth County Water District Commission Advisory Board member. That's a long
That
title.
is
Second that.
That's impressive.
Did I get a second?
Second,
All those in favor, Eric, aye?
Kim, I.
Don, aye.
Missy, I.
Tyler, aye. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Nope.
All right, next we have an appointment of public health nurse. Due to resignation, the appointment of public health position is vacant. After completing the recruitment process, the health agent is recommending the hiring of Patricia Iafredi, if I said that correctly, to the position. Wage and personnel are meeting on Monday, February 27th to review, and the position is budgeted for 15 hours a week.
So the Wage and Personnel Committee met last night and approved as presented.
Okay.
Oh, they did, at a step 10? Okay.
Yes.
Any questions or?
I just had a question, just really just because I couldn't find it. Does this position go in homes, or is this just like educating the public?
Joyce is on there.
Oh, Joyce is on
Health
here.
agent, if you want to ask.
Hi, Joyce.
Yeah.
Is this position like an in-home care position at times, or is she generally just?
Not at the moment. It is predominantly to service the MAVEN that's required by the state, the tracking system, as well as we do outreach with the COA. We are working on establishing work with the outreach person in the COA so that if we do need to go out and assist, that's down the road, that's something we're looking at. But given that it's 15 hours a week,
Yeah.
I'm kind of limited as to what I can do.
Yep, agreed, thank you. That was my only
Yeah,
question.
go ahead.
Where does this position reside in the budget? No, but I have that
Wage
nice
and
page that you
personnel
gave us that's updated. I was just wondering where in the health
So
budget.
it's in the clerical line item, I believe.
Union? Okay.
Keith, the position is in wage and personnel in the budget.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, interesting.
Any other questions?
It just, the budget that's here doesn't seem to have it, so that's why I guess I'll ask questions during the budget discussion.
Is it not in the wage and personnel, the second line?
But if the town administrator's budget's 98,000 and the department request is 126,000, so I guess, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If I'm right, it was
I just want to make sure I,
updated. Kim.
So the wage and person, the clerical budget of $78,640 includes the 15-hour-a-week part-time nurse and the full-time admin.
okay. Thank you.
Oh, I see it.
Yep.
Yep.
Got it. Appreciate it. All right, I move, unless you want.
No, go ahead.
I move the Board of Selectmen appoint Patricia,
Iafrady.
thank you, Iafrady to the position of public health nurse, a grade 6, step 10, less than part-time position within wage and personnel, with an anticipated start date of February 3rd, 2025, consistent with the terms of the offer letter.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, Eric, aye.
Kim, I.
Don, aye.
Missy, I.
Tyler, aye.
All right, next item, we have an appointment of 3 civil service permanent intermittent police officers. That's a long title. A permanent intermittent is a civil service appointed part-time police officer. Kingston has historically had them in the past, so there would be no need to ask town meeting or other governing body for authorization other than appointing authority, Board of Selectmen. In the most recent years, police department has not used these positions. Chief, take it away.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, all members. Ms. Tucker. Permanent intermittent is a part-time police position, similar to that of a special police officer. The only difference is that you're giving that candidate part-time status under civil service. So what we would end up doing is, if I was to call for a list of candidates right now, it's taken from the open and competitive civil service certification for police officer. Once you take a candidate from that certification and make them a permanent intermittent, I can no longer ask for a list of open and competitive candidates until the list of PIs has been exhausted. The PIs come from the same certification and open competitive exam. What's the reason I'm asking? Is because we have a candidate who is very unique in that he is a full-time sheriff for the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department, and he's completed the Bridge Academy, which was required by Chapter 32E, the post statute. So he'd be able to come in, work details. Some of the people in the department will be able to get to know him. He'd get to know some of us. And if a vacancy occurs for full-time position, we've preserved that candidate. Some costs associated with it are no different than that for intake of a new full-time employee, medical examination, physical abilities tests, psychological. It's all the same, and we budgeted for those positions. If the person has an opportunity to go to the full-time academy and become a full-time permanent employee, you don't have to redo the psychological, the physical exam, and the PAT again. You have to go to the police academy.
But we're already budgeted for these, for the hours that would be required for these people?
We have a line in there for PIs, but it's really for calling part-time police officers in at straight time if we have a critical incident.
Yeah.
So there's no cost. The only thing the person's going to be doing is working police details. And then the additional cost for any kind of medical exams, we already have that in our budget. Psychological, medical, and PAT, that's a cost to us.
Got it.
Same question. Where does this live in the budget, do you know?
So there is a line item for PIs, there's about $5,000 that's in there, is
Okay.
that right? Yeah.
It's these budgets, it's so tough because they only give you like 7 characters and then they just cut off the category.
You have to figure out what the other words.
1,200, is that what you said?
Yes, 1,200.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
So again, I would, just to go back to, like, if we get authorization to me, the candidate would have to jump through all those hoops, and I'd bring them back here and introduce the candidate to you. The motion that I put in there, suggested motion, is up to 3, because if I have a repeat of somebody who falls into this category and I don't want to lose this favorable candidate, I would do the same thing again and repeat the process, bring the candidate back to you.
Right.
But just to be clear, this is not increasing the officers, meaning what we talked about last week. This isn't adding the
No.
3. I just want to make sure everyone understands this is a different.
No, it gives the person civil service standing to basically have the opportunity to become a full-timer without having to take the exam again, get put on the list again, get put on a merged list. Is a favorable candidate. There was an interview panel of myself, a lieutenant, a sergeant, and a patrolman, and the entire interview panel unanimously agreed we want to save this spot for this guy.
Motion from anybody? Or any other questions?
I move the Board of Selectmen authorize the police chief to appoint up to 3 civil service permanent intermittent police officers.
Second.
All those in favor? Eric, aye.
Kim, aye.
Don, aye.
Missy, I.
Tyler, aye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we're all done for the night. I'm just kidding. Budget. So, discussion and possible vote on Board of Selectmen recommended FY26 operating budget. Before we get started, Keith, I just want to ask a couple questions to set expectations. So, A, we have the municipal budget outside of schools. We have that pretty well in touch. I know you've made some changes. There's some additional revenues that, and there'll be some changes to the fire and the police budget so that there's no reduction in staff. We're also aware of additional Chapter 70 funds going to Kingston schools, about $500,000 that Carl mentioned early on. That could be added, but what we don't have are school budgets. The elementary and the regional schools, they're having they're required by law, public budget hearings the first week of February. We're really hoping that the school committees will turn around and give us budgets as soon as possible after those public budget hearings, if not the same night, hopefully very soon after that. There could potentially be overrides. We're also going to be discussing, we can discuss tonight, the only override that would be required, non-schools, would be the request from the police department for additional positions. And we have to have I think we should have a discussion tonight about what we would support this year or not, and what amount, whether it's the entire amount that he asked for, some sub-amount, and whatnot. The schools, again, I don't think we should be, and this is just me, I don't think we should be discussing whether we will, well, we can discuss an override in general, but we don't have any numbers from the schools, so we have no idea what those numbers could potentially be. But just correct me if I'm wrong, we don't need to vote on a number tonight. We can even vote on a number, just the non-school portion of it, am I right?
You are?
So we don't have to take a vote on our budget tonight.
You don't have to. There's not a bylaw that provides a timeline. As I think that the chair and I had a conversation this afternoon, and the FinCom has already begun reviewing budgets, so holding up some or all of the budget votes this evening will not slow down, I don't believe, and Mr. Pike would be happy to correct me, I'm sure. Will not slow down the FinCom's review of the fiscal 26 budget. The school committee is meeting, I think, on February 2nd, if I'm not mistaken, or sometime early in February, the Kingston School Committee, where I know they're going to be discussing the budget, whether or not they're able to come to a final number there or not. I don't know that.
Right.
But it's the board has as much or as little rope as they want tonight on us, whether or not on what they want to vote on and what they don't want to vote on this evening.
I mean, we could vote a whole number and just assign a number to the schools.
Yeah.
But in the end, once we get the numbers from the schools, we're going to want to review it anyways to see if we want to make a change to the number that we voted. So we could be re-voting again, in a couple of weeks or up to a month away.
Well, we could be voting right up to town meeting, because things
Correct.
do change, so.
Right. So
I'd like to provide the public and the finance committee with our thoughts on the budget as soon as possible, just so
Okay.
that they know where we are and where we're starting from.
Okay.
Keith, also, what's our, or anybody else, what's our timeline if we were to vote yay or nay on an override? It has to be, is it 6 weeks ahead of, like, if we were trying to fit that into the annual town election, is it 6 weeks out that we have to make that determination?
It's 35 days, 35 clear days from the date of the election. So I haven't counted
From the date of the
backwards.
election?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I haven't counted backwards from May.
Yeah.
But there's some time, there's certainly some time there to, let's just say April 1st. Very conservatively would probably be the timeline to still be able to have a Proposition 2.5 override vote on the same ballot or on the same day as the local elections.
What day is the election?
17th, May 17th. So we have time. I guess that's the point with the override. Although, to Keith's point, he's brought this up multiple times. If we're going to do an override, we need to do it sooner rather
April
than
12th.
later.
April 12th.
Yeah,
Just
we
so-
have plenty of
So
time.
he said April 1st, which is.
Yeah,
gives a little
better,
leeway.
even better.
Yeah. So, again, I'm really hoping that the schools will give us a final budget by mid-February, because we need the time this year to review and discuss that. Luckily, the Kingston schools got an extra $500,000
But we can
in
also.
Chapter 70.
But we could theoretically provide them with a number that they should be at.
Right,
Obviously,
so
it might
we-
be a lot
so-
higher they come
Right.
in at, but.
Right, but what they may
But we've already done that. We've
want
told them
may
4%.
be different, right.
We've given them numbers. They know that.
Well, the only way that would make it more clear is if we voted down override. It said, that's it. I mean, that's what's very clear.
Yeah. So,
Sorry to be blunt. I'm just saying that'd be the most clear. That'd be the clearest way of doing it. Is to. I'm not saying yes or nay, yay or nay on either side of it. The clearest way to throw up a flare on that one is to vote down an override and say, well, there you go.
so
I'm not saying that needs to happen tonight. I'm just throwing it out there.
Right. At this point, Keith, why don't I turn it over to you? Yeah,
So I'm handing out
here you go.
the latest and greatest consolidated, if there is an extra one, so I'd love to give one to you.
Actually, I think we already got
Pass
these.
it back.
You did, but I think it's been tweaked just a little bit.
Give him another one.
Whoop.
So I
Just one
apologize.
page, right?
I hope so.
Yes, sir,
Yeah, okay.
one page.
I only took one.
Oh, I see.
So, just to try to go over what the changes are in general for the board. When we met last week, there was an interest in trying to increase estimated revenues and true up the estimated revenues from the cherry sheet from the governor's budget. So Kathleen Barrett has done that. So if I can just go through this really quickly, there's some highlighted lines. I don't have the highlighted lines, but that's all right. We have, this is, I apologize. I want to make sure I'm talking to the right one here. All right, we're ready. So I apologize. So what Kathleen has done is this. We have kept the levy limit calculation the same. There's no change there. There's no change in the debt exclusion section on the top either. We've modified state aid receipts to the $7.78 million, which is what is on the cherry sheet now. It also, and it does include the just under $500,000 increase in Chapter 70 revenue that is used typically to offset the schools.
Just a quick question. I'm actually seeing 7.36 on the state aid
All right, look,
receipts on FY '26.
I mean, let me.
And the old one that we had was 7.3. This
let me
just
make-
added
I
60,000.
apologize. Let me just make a copy of this one then. I made a copy of the wrong one, I apologize. Can we
Oh,
take
that's
a
okay.
2-minute break?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
So we'll
apologize.
just take a 2-minute break.
Throw those away.
I like recycling.
Is this updated today?
Yes.
Oh.
This is the right-
back to order here. We all have the right budget document here. So Keith, you were mentioning that the state aid receipts went up to 7.8 million, and
I
we
did.
have, the version we have now says that. So what were you saying after that?
So I apologize for the
No, that's
confusion. So included in the revenues is the cherry sheet revenues.
Yep.
We also modified some of the local receipts to allow for the funding that was discussed last week, to retain a patrolman, to retain a dispatcher, and to reinstate the 170 plus or minus $1,000 in fire department sick leave overtime. So that provides us a new total of $61,460,000 in estimated revenues. In our expenditures, we increased education from 15,100,000 for local education to 15,596,000, which is the addition of the new cherry sheet number. We've increased the public safety budget to reflect the items that I just mentioned. And we also updated in the bottom section, under state aid charges, the cherry sheet charges.
Can I ask a quick question?
I wish you would.
Can you, do you have this digitally? Can you email it to me so I can put it up on the screen?
I don't, but I know somebody who does. I don't think I have it digitally, and I
Can we
apologize.
just hold it up at the camera? Just kidding.
Yeah, you can.
It'll be on the website in our meeting materials, maybe?
That's fine.
At some point?
This one will be.
It will be,
not
right.
just
So
not
if,
tonight.
for folks who want to take a look at it, it will be
Yeah.
included in the
up
budget
to you if you
folder
wanna
on the
email it to me.
website.
Oh, okay, just send it there.
So what this has done, frankly, is it's, again, addressed the public safety comments that were made by the board. It also, for lack of a better term, reduces the amount of money, which was about $1.7 million, that the local schools needed to be level service. When you apply the just under $500,000, that drops to, let's just say for argument's sake, $1.25 to $3 million.
Yeah.
There's also, so that's where we are right now.
So that was the big change from our last meeting.
Yes.
Last week. So we
Yes.
have additional revenues, so police and fire taken care of. Chief, Chief Holmes, did you say you wanted to make a comment?
One question.
Yeah. Guys, don't forget to put a big X through your old.
Yeah.
Just something to consider, and I haven't even broached this with Mr. Hickey or Ms. Barrett, but one way to get to those three positions, the three patrol officers' positions, is this is a consideration for the board, is the use of Chapter 70 money for some or all of the funding for the full-time SRO at the middle. I know the money comes to the town of Kingston. I don't know how it would work for everybody to get that funding to the Silver Lake Regional School District. It's still kind of an anomaly to me. I just wanted to throw it out there because I know that, you're working your way towards the approval, maybe tonight or at some point in the near future about the municipal side budget.
Can I ask a question, because you made me think of something. Is there any talk at any level about either federal or state funding school resource officers? Not just like one-time grants to get it started, but sort of funding to help us get going and maintain it.
Yeah, unfortunately, the latest headlines is a step in the wrong direction from Washington DC to scrap funding for local cities and towns, but I don't know, I'm just speculating that it's going to be reworked, and the priorities will probably change due to the new administration. So the most recent news is that I think the COPS grants are off the table because all funding has been frozen.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So, right now, Keith, just to clarify, the total, the new budget, or the one that we had 2 weeks ago was 60 million, oh, wait a minute, am I wrong? last week, our budget, correct me if I'm wrong, was 61,092,000, and now we're at 61,460. 61 million, thank you.
61,000, I feel like
Yeah, I know.
we're shutting some things down.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. So, I know we had talked about transfer stations. Now, what we don't have that actually on our agenda, so I don't know how much we can talk
So,
about transfer stations.
If I could maybe just address that.
Yep.
So there's, I think
And I didn't
budgetarily,
think
you
it
talk
was.
about whether or not you want to modify the decal rates to be more self-support, had to have the transfer station be more self-supporting than what's been discussed. So, did Don just do that?
I did.
You're amazing. I was just trying to, anyway, so that's the sheet that Selectman Emberg had asked for. So thank you for that. A couple of things that are not included in the budget document that you have in front of you this evening that I think the board may want to think about debating one way or another. There's two items. One, the easy one, there was some discussion, I think, last week. Chief Douglas mentioned at that meeting that he wanted to reach out to the kind of the experts in the field as far as the ambulance billing goes to see if there was any wiggle room to adjust ambulance rates in one form or another. Chief Douglas did that. They're finalizing what the actual rates will be, and I'd like to have it on the board agenda for 2 weeks from now. But what they have said is they would increase rates for the ALS-1 and ALS-2 calls that the fire department, advanced life support, that the fire department responds to on most of the time, that would equate to a very conservative revenue increase of about $60,000. So that $60,000 is not included in the figures that are on the screen that are in front of you this evening that could be. Based on the board's directions tonight, the chief is ready to present the board with revised charges for ambulance services at your meeting on February 11th. The other thing that's not included in the board materials is the transfer station decals. We talked last week about having the transfer station decals and the other revenues that we collect potentially fully offset the cost of the transfer station. Those revenue figures are not in here as well. So if the board, for example, wanted to increase transfer station decals and other charges at the transfer station to have that transfer station be self-supportive, by doing that, the board would increase revenues by $197,000. The $197,000 and the $60,000 I just mentioned about ambulance fees could be used and retained as excess tax levy capacity, or could be reallocated to one or more departments to address funding requirements or requests in one or two of the departments, including the schools. So there's some, I think the board has to make some policy decisions on the transfer station decals, again, depending on the direction you give tonight. If you're ready to do so, on the decals, we would bring those decal charges, the recommended charges for decals back to the board at your February 11th meeting for your consideration.
So correct me if I'm wrong, it's not specifically on the agenda, so can we even deliberate this
I
tonight?
think you can, because I think it's budgetary.
It falls under budget, but I do think there are some factors to consider when we think about, again, moving toward the notion of having people pay for the services that they want, right, as opposed
Yeah.
to subsidizing from the overall government budget. Transfer station sticker sales for regular stickers have gone down every year. Second stickers have gone up, not price, but actual quantity sold. And the seniors 66 and above have gone up every year. So I think I can see that being as folks age into the senior group, they're moving from regular sticker to senior sticker, but we're not getting significantly more every year from new people moving to town and whatnot. So there is something to be considered when we think about this, and maybe we want to think about it and over the next week or two. I can send you the information that Sean was kind enough to provide. I asked for some numbers, and Sean and Lynn put these together. We want to be careful, I think. We have to be careful about how quickly we increase the fees. We discussed this earlier with the shellfish stickers. We talked about it with the Grace Beach stickers. People are getting hit with water and sewer, and I understand that. I want to eventually get to the point where the transfer station pays for itself.
Right.
I don't know that we can do that in 1 year, but I think there are ways that we can look at this. Sean had mentioned looking at the tonnage, the weight, yes, the C&D and how much we charge the contractors when they weigh what they bring, maybe increasing that a couple of cents per ton, and that kind of increase will help. So I think this is a worthwhile conversation to have. I don't know that I have the exact number that I would recommend at this point for those, but I think it's worth talking about it.
For me, I mean, since we did talk about this before, I just personally think that the regular decal should not go higher than 290 in the first year. And that's just sort of an arbitrary number.
Yeah, I don't think it should go more than what we just raised anything else percentage-wise.
Well, you're talking about percentage.
Yes.
See, I don't necessarily agree. I think this is a bigger item than the shellfish. So.
Well, and beach stickers too.
Yeah, and this costs us money. You know, the shellfish doesn't cost us money. This is, paying for a service. So, and the other issue is your curbside delivery has gone up through the roof, but we haven't raised the rates on the decals as much as the curbside delivery has gone up.
I think we raised it $40 last
Right.
year.
And like I said, curbside
20?
delivery has gone from $400 a year to I'm paying almost double that.
Do we have the surrounding towns? Or, I know Plymouth is like 190.
So we can certainly do that. Some of the towns that are surrounding us also do pay-as-you-throw. So that's going to, skew those transfer station fees, but we can certainly gather that information if that's what you'd like us to do.
I'm a big no with pay-as-you-throw, and that's a good slogan. I'm a big no with pay-as-you-throw. I'm going to put that on a sign. But, and again, we don't need to vote on this tonight, so I think this is something we need to continue to think about and try to get some feedback from the public on this, but certainly covering more and more of the cost of the services provided, I think, is a smart thing to do. Elaine had mentioned earlier that we're not doing more long-term planning, and I think by covering the cost of operating these things through user fees is certainly a good long-term plan.
Well, and as we look at the budget and we think about this year, I said the same thing last year. We can't just think about this year. We need to think about next year. And the reason I voted no on the budget last year was because I knew we would be in this position if the budget passed, and it did, and now we're facing these very difficult decisions, and transfer station stickers, raising the price is not one of those difficult decisions. I'm talking about whether or not we have to start thinking about eliminating staff, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
So I agree, we need to be thinking further into the future, and I think we need to start thinking differently about the budget.
Yeah, and I think, people are saying we're always blaming education, but, the cost for education over the past couple of years has just gone through the roof. And there's lots of reasons for that. And we need to look at the state. That's not going to be a short-term fix, but the state needs to meet its commitments, and it's not. I mean, they're paying, we have this millionaire's tax, and again, I know you guys have all heard this, I'm just saying it again. This millionaire's tax was supposed to save education and transportation. It's not paying for anything for education. It hasn't gone to anything related to K through 12 public education. It's going to free lunch and free breakfast, but That's not paying for teachers. So these kids are going to have free lunch and free breakfast who don't need it. The kids who've always needed it have always gotten it because there's money from the federal government for it, and kids qualify financially, and nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows. And it's covered through the USDA, if I remember correctly. During COVID, we got the federal government paid for free lunch and breakfast for everybody, including grab and go. People they were teaching their kids at home, they could come pick up meals, bring them home, which was great. That stopped under this new millionaire's tax. They wanted to continue it for all kids. There's a benefit. Kids are getting better meals, there's no question. But we're looking at 35, 40 kids in a classroom. We need to look at our priorities again. So we need help from our state reps, our state senators, the governor. They need to, stop with they need to prioritize better, and they're not. And then we've been hit with special ed costs. We need to figure out, are we going above and beyond what we're required to do? And then there's English as a language English language learners that we've had the issue with Baymont and other placements at apartments by the state. So back in 2015, there was one English language learner in K through KES, 2 at KIS, and then it has just gone up through the roof. So last year, it was something like 60 between the two schools, and this year, it's up to 100. We're looking at 10% of the student body that don't speak English. And that's costing us. And we've asked the schools to provide us total costs for SPED so that we know, because we know what we're spending per regular student. What we don't know is what we're spending on IEPs. That we're not getting that information. We've asked for it. We know we're getting some.
You know what the expenditure is for the special education.
But we don't know who
percent.
it's applying to. So
Right.
the students who've been put here by the state and the feds, we're getting some reimbursement from the state to pay for things, but now 10% of the student body isn't speaking English. That's hitting beyond what they're providing for us in funding. And my big thing at the meeting with the school committee, was it last week? Last week. Was that we need to know what the actual costs are so that we can go back to the state and make sure that they're paying 100%. And we don't know that. So there's a lot of things that we have to try to fix. And these are not things you can plan for. I mean, we want to plan for next year, and to Kim's point, last year we knew this was going to happen again. Didn't matter if we made cuts last year. We'd have the same increases again this year, whether we made the cuts last year or not.
I don't know that I'd agree with that, but I think
Special ed costs went up.
well, again, we're not on school committee, so I appreciate where you're coming from, but at the same time, if we had had a more conservative budget across the board, we wouldn't be in this exact position right now. It's no one's fault. It is what it is. That's the budget that passed town meeting, right? So,
So part of the problem is with the schools, we can say to the schools, hey, you only have X amount of money, this is what you get. But then the problem becomes, Kingston used to spend near the top of the state per student. Right now, we're near the bottom of the state for regular students, but we're also way at the top of the state in terms of what we're spending on special education.
Top
So-
5.
What's that?
We're in the top 5.
Top 5. So people are moving here to get that, and it's killing us, and we can't stop them from moving here. So this is one of the problems that we're having. And then if we say you only have X amount of dollars, well, the more that they're spending on special ed, they're just cutting regular day. So that's a problem. So,
and then the more
I
people
don't know
send
what
their
the.
kids to charter schools, and then the problem only increases.
Right. And because private schools are fine because the money doesn't follow them. The town doesn't have to contribute to that. But if a kid goes to charter school, the town has to pay the tuition. That does follow them. So encourage people to go to private school, that's fine. Charter school, no. Sorry, I'm losing my voice, which is probably a good thing. So any other comments, questions?
Can I just add one thing that I forgot to mention, and if you need more explanation, I'm sure Chief Holmes or Laura could provide it to you. Chief found out earlier this week, or late last week, that there was a file server in the police department that's on its last leg. It's about a $15,000 cost. I would ask the board if we could increase either the IT budget or the police budget by the amount needed to purchase that server, so we don't have some sort of a failure over there and we're reacting to that. So as the board considers, whether it be tonight or some other evening, for where they want to be for a fiscal 26 budget, there is a last-minute need that I'd ask the board to at least consider.
So just to be clear, the last one that we got here, the last budget, it's 61,460, 194. So what you're asking is to add 15,000 to that? Okay. So it'd be 1475. I didn't bring my magnifying glass, 194.
If that's not an emergency that needs to be funded now, it can wait until July 1st. I'm just asking because
It's not an emergency yet.
it's not an emergency yet. Okay.
What's actually happening to it? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
We need one over there.
I know.
So handheld.
We need a mic runner, yeah.
Oh, the light's on, so that means they can hear me, correct? Okay,
Yeah,
so
to the
the
budget.
server that we have is approaching, I think, more than 5 years. So it's at its end of its useful life, and it's our records management server, so it handles all of our files, all our police records management. CJIS, I believe, is stored on that. Somebody help me with that? No? Okay, it's not. IMC, just IMC. And our Lieutenant Kelly was our IT specialist and came to visit, and he had said, we need to get our server sooner more than later. We thought we were going to get another 2 years from it, and he said, try to get one as soon as you can, because it's just going to die on us.
Is there any backup of that data?
Yes, there is a cloud storage.
Okay.
And
So
just
it's
to-
more, so it's time down. if it-
Yes, we will have no
You don't lose
computers if that server
data. It's just time-
crashes.
It's time down.
Yes.
Okay.
And just to add to that, so, you know, and, well, you know, if they went to AWS or, you know, you're going to be paying, I know my company, just for a simple server, we're spending about $1,700 a month.
Yeah, no, yeah,
So it's,
definitely.
We would not be able to, if we had calls for service, to look up somebody's information, we won't have any of that. We'd actually probably have to go use Duxbury, am I correct in saying that, to help us out, to look up Carver? Yes,
Are
Carver
these
is our
servers under,
official.
do we have, or do we just have our IT consultants maintain? Are these under maintenance?
So we're trying, so this particular server is out of warranty. As I think Laura started to mention, we're kind of transitioning. The police department in the past used to have their own staff and outside consultant
Yep.
to oversee the IT network, where Chief Holmes and I have had a couple of conversations, and we've included our consultant now, MX, to try to get a number there, to try to make sure that their computer network is operating properly and is reliable for the work that they're doing over there. So we're kind of frankly in transition, but we expect to get there pretty quickly.
No, I mean, the biggest thing is if it's out of maintenance, that's when your downtime goes from, if it fails, a couple hours to weeks.
Yes.
While you wait, yeah.
And that was going to be my question about the IT consultant firm that we use, was whether they were weighing in on.
Yeah, I think that they agree that this needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. So it's, we apologize for the 11th hour ask, but wanted to bring it forward before anything was finalized to see if the board would consider something like that.
any discussion on that? Just that $15,000 file server? Are
No,
folks okay?
Just to ask the question that probably shouldn't ask is, are there any other mission-critical servers that are out of maintenance and?
I think for the most part, the Munis and whatnot is cloud.
Yeah, so we have a couple of servers that are on our capital plan to be replaced in fiscal '26.
In this building?
In this building.
Meaning not police or
No,
fire?
no.
And does
I believe
fire,
they're both
you
in
guys
this
have
building.
servers as well?
One at the police station, one backup at fire.
Okay.
one at the police station, one back up at fire, he said.
Thank you.
And those are still in maintenance, right? They're still under maintenance? Like as in their warranty or whatever?
And the chief said they are still under maintenance.
Yeah,
I'm just
okay.
speaking for him in the.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So, right now, the budget as presented on the page that Keith passed out was 61,461.94. This would bring it to 61,475,194.
Right.
Is there,
Does that number include any increases to staff for any department? Okay.
so we don't need to vote on this number, but this is the number that includes 4% in general for the schools.
This number includes 4% plus the 500, or 500
Right.
plus thousand, or just under 500,000 from Chapter 70. So so the school, the local school right now has a 7.1% budget increase.
Right.
But it's offset by that additional revenue. So the net increase to the school is 4%.
Okay. So just also to be clear, and Carl, you may need to chime in as well, but the regional school committee is about 2.1 million over what they were trying to get at, but they weren't trying to get to 4%, they were trying to get to 2%.
Correct.
So we're already, if it requires an override, I'm just making this number up, 1.1 assessment to Kingston, 2% will be deducted from that number. We wouldn't need 1.1 in an override, because we're already assuming.
My quick and dirty is that
Oh, my God.
the
Oh, yeah, you might need to go to Mike. I'm sorry,
Sorry.
Carl.
They can hear me.
Just gonna get knocked
that
on
loud,
from the window.
My quick and dirty assessment calculation, based upon where the Silver Lake total cost budget is, I would say that we would have about $800,000
Okay.
above and beyond the
The
4% that we are targeting.
Okay. That kind of makes sense. So really, what we're looking at is the region, and I'm sure they're going to come up with cuts. They haven't cut anything yet. So I'm positive they're going to make cuts. Kingston, I'm not positive. I don't know. But right now, Kingston's at 1.7, that's 8, so that would be 2.5. We can't control schools, so I don't think we should even really talk much about it right now. But the other issue that is before us, police chief asked us last week for new positions. He did ask for that. So remember, he's looking for, God, I thought I had the list right in front of me, 3 additional patrol, a deputy chief, and a full-time dispatcher. And when we asked him to prioritize, he had said, and correct me if I'm wrong, chief, patrol first, cops on the street, a dispatcher, and the deputy chief, and then the dispatcher. Okay. So again, now that would be, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's a $1.1 million ask. So is there, I know we talked earlier about an override. This would have to be an override unless we find funds that we can apply to it underneath it. Now, obviously, if we talk about the transfer station increasing stickers, we might get some additional funds there that could either go to the schools or towards police for new positions. I think I already know the answer, but I think it would be good for us to kind of deliberate about this right now. Whether we would want to, it doesn't mean we'd have to support it, but would we recommend putting an override before town meeting for any public safety positions that the police chief is asking for? And it doesn't have to be for the full amount. It could be for a subset of these.
I mean, I've said from the beginning, I don't support an override. I will vote against an override, but I won't prevent the people of this town from voting on something.
Okay.
But that's me.
And we don't have to vote on this tonight.
They can, what about you guys?
Yeah.
You can
No,
go.
you can go.
I just have a question about the process of it. So if we decide that we don't want to put forward an override, just saying that, and something comes up at the floor of town meeting, and that something is just for the schools. What happens to
That was
these
going to be
asks?
actually one of my questions as well in terms of process. So what you're saying is, like, let's say we say no override, but somebody changes the school budget on the floor and it passes and it's a higher thing. I don't know the answer to that.
So what would happen is the motion on the floor would need to include language to have it be contingent upon a positive ballot vote, or an affirmative vote of the ballot.
But it
Because
wouldn't be the 35 days in it.
that's right. Well,
Yeah.
so we would have to have a special election because it wouldn't meet the 35-day requirement, as the chair just mentioned. So we would have a special election just for, and now that I'm thinking out loud, I'd have to talk to the clerk, I guess. You could push the town election back, I guess, potentially to mid-June and have one election, but you'd have to meet the 35-day threshold. So 35 days from April 27th is,
June 10th,
mid-June.
somewhere, yeah.
So there still could be one election, but it would have to be later than the election you have scheduled now.
And then we would have to roll I know it's not a significant amount, but I think it's like $30,000 for an election.
No, it's less than that, but I want to say there was a discussion about that, and I think the clerk mentioned it was about $10,000 this
Okay.
morning.
So,
Yeah, just, Eric, getting back to, I guess you'd kind of spoken, and Kim had kind of spoken a little bit too about it. Yeah, I mean, not even speaking directly to police, because, I would love to be able to, I want to be able to bring the services to the town and vote to be able to bring the services to the town that the police department needs. With that said, I'm lumping everything into one category. Police, anything that requires an override, at this point, I'm a no on, because if we don't have the revenue, I see it kind of simple. I know this is not simple because this affects everybody's lives. Like, this is very, 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 this is a very big thing for our town. But if we don't have the revenue projected to cover this for next year, we're going to be in the same spot or worse. I think it's fiscally irresponsible for us to put forward something that we can't cover on our back, I wouldn't do it in my own business, nor would I do it within my own family finances. So it's difficult, but I can see us in the next 2 to 3 years. I think there's going to be chances for us to have revenue that are going to be coming down the pipeline. But until those are said and done, until the water department starts allowing us to explore other options for commercial. This is the things we're going to need to be able to move forward, and we don't have those things to move forward right now. We're a little bit hog-tied because of that, because of commercial growth, and I don't see the revenue there for it, and therefore, right now, I'm a no on override.
So, one thing I just want to add is town meeting makes decisions a lot, and we pass things, and then we don't support what is inevitable based on those decisions. Those apartments were put in at the mall, and they're hitting fire and police. You know what I mean? And then we just approved MBTA zoning to allow tripling the apartments, which is even more police, more fire. But then, so I understand what both you and Kim are saying, but I'm also annoyed that town meeting passes these articles that allow things to happen that then cause increased expenses. So then
it's a difference of how you're looking at it. You're looking at it as the MBTA, passing the MBTA zoning law as a net loss for us. I voted for it to be a net positive because we were going to lose all of our grant funding. So that's a perspective. That's not a not a red. So that's not a black and white thing to be said, Eric.
No, but I mean, we allowed the apartment buildings, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to remember what we did with zoning to allow the apartment. We did do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that passed to allow the apartments to be built, which caused increased services, which cost money, but then we're not ponying up to pay for those increased services. Do you see what I'm saying?
I think I do. And I think if we had one or two of these things that have hit at once, we may be at a place where we could, where we can float everything. But we're not. We're getting hit with inflation. We're getting hit with.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I
mean, it's kind of like buying a
no
new
new growth. It's kind of like everything. It's kind of like everything's hitting the fan at once. So.
Right.
And that's the issue that we're dealing with, is we're dealing with a multifaceted situation where we're having 5 or 6 multiple things hitting at once, including Baymont Hotel with immigrants coming, including with the water resources not being able to have projected growth, including with, growth that we have that maybe we couldn't sustain. I think it's all of that happening at once, plus cost of living, plus cost of doing business, plus let's not talk about something that we can't, plus unions. Unions make things go up in our town, and they do. We have requirements that make everybody get a certain amount of pay grade, or pay increase every single year. We have retirement that is compounded that, frankly, I don't think people 30 years ago knew was going to happen. So we're dealing with massive ramifications from not just the past 1 or 2 years. Those things have happened, but also, I think projected loss of revenue from decisions that were made a long time ago as well. So we're kind of just sitting here in a, trying to make, everybody's trying to make the best out of what is a very crappy situation, but,
Let me take a step back and ask this question in a different way. And again, this is just to get towards, and just dealing with police, not schools. So there are some items here, the full package would be quite a bit and probably wouldn't pass. We'd probably have to narrow down this list a little bit. Would you be willing to put it forward to town meeting, or do you want to make the decision for the town, as, we had people asking us to do, not even allow it to go to town meeting, because then it's a war of who shows up, and then obviously it would also have to go to the ballot where everybody gets to vote. So it's a multi-level process. First, we have to agree to put it on the town meeting warrant. It would have to pass there, and then it would have to pass the ballot. But we also have the ability to say, no, we're not even going to put it on the town meeting. That's the 5 of us making that decision for the entire town. So how, and again, we don't have to vote on it, but I'm just curious what everybody thinks of that. Kim, you already said you wouldn't stop it, but would you support sending it to the town meeting warrant?
I think I answered that. Similar to we had an article before that someone came forth, asked for something to be on town meeting warrant. We all voted in favor of putting it on the warrant, and then we all voted against it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Prop 2.5 is a little bit different. I have a different theory on Prop 2.5.
Okay.
I think we are making a systematic decision that, like, if somebody comes with a article, all these articles can come up to us, but when it comes to Prop 2.5, I think we have a unique position to say yes or no to it, because I think it's us giving a much clearer pathway to get to that position. So we are essentially saying, here is a very easy path to get into Prop 2.5 when potentially we don't actually agree with it. Like, maybe we do. I don't know how the vote would shake out. And so I see that as, if you want a Prop 2.5 override, let's just say we vote against it. We say no Prop 2.5 override because we do not see it as fiscally responsible for this town. Beyond an article that comes up, here and there every year that we don't support ones that we still put forward. This is like a large systematic change that we're asking for this year. I think it's completely in our purview to say no if we feel that way, and then allow people in town to put forward either citizen petitions or make motions on the floor to change it, and then go from there. But I don't necessarily, if we don't agree with this and we think this is going to make it absolutely difficult for the town to be able to pay their own bills and their own taxes, I think it's in our purview. I guess what I'm saying is it's not a rubber stamp like I would see normally, right? A lot of times we rubber stamp stuff to go to town meeting because it's like, okay, this should go before the body to vote on. I think Prop 2.5 is a little different. And you can see different towns that have voted that in the past.
I think the only thing I would say to that too is, what you said makes sense, but if we put it forward on town meeting warrant, we could specify a lower number. They could still override it at town meeting.
My argument against, Tyler, I appreciate where you're coming from, and I understand and agree conceptually. The issue I have is that room will be stacked. regardless, with people who will vote in favor of that amendment. They will come prepared to stack the room, and the override, the non-Prop 2.5 override on the town meeting floor will likely pass. All that will do is force a special election 2 or 3 weeks after the regular annual election. So my fear is, by taking a strong stance, by not putting it on the warrant for the existing body to vote on, we're forcing $10,000 for a special election. That'd be my concern.
That was why I asked that question,
Yeah.
because I really didn't know how that would play out, but that's my concern. My concern is
Yeah.
if we don't, that could happen.
And then regarding the override, what is the situation, or what's the impact if it goes with, we go with an override, the Kingston votes regional down, other two towns don't,
We're on the hook.
and then that is coming out of directly Kingston, our elementary, right? Or is it all town budget, I guess, whatever that difference is?
Just
Because we have to, in other words, if we vote down override, the other two say yes to it at the regional level. We have to fund that.
just to take a practical step back,
Yeah.
not in a million years would we vote down a regional override and Halifax would vote it up.
I'm just saying that it is a possibility, right? So it's something
Yeah.
that we have to plan for.
Carl
Carl's ready.
has had this scenario through his head many times.
I'd just like to clear up the question a bit about the override for the schools. You've got to remember that the local schools and the Silver Lake assessment are totally separate.
Yeah.
So that the local schools, if we decide, or if you decide to go for an override, that stands by itself. Silver Lake assessment might come in to Kingston at 4% or less. So then there might not need to be an override for Silver Lake. But in any case, if there was, okay, and Kingston voted against the override for Silver Lake, and the other two towns voted for it, which I agree with Eric, is probably never going to happen. But if that happened, then Kingston has to live with whatever the budget was that Silver Lake created.
Yeah.
My last comment, I promise, for tonight. I listened to the comments from Dawn, from the rest of the board here, and the one thing I would say is, to me, this is probably the most important opportunity for the Board of Selectmen to exhibit leadership. Leadership is the word that I'm using in this situation, that I believe in a lot of cases you're asked to manage. But this is a situation where I believe you have to represent the town and be the leadership for the town, whether you want to vote yes or no for a Proposition 2.5, you need to be the leaders. Thanks.
And I just want to add, I think, Keith, I don't have it up in front of me, but for every $500,000 on a $500,000 house, I think, what was it?
I can put it up.
I wish it was
I think it was like $200.
I wish we had a percentage, though. It would be easier, because what's the percentage increase? Meaning,
Well, you could
because,
figure it out if you, because there was
I
a
just mean in terms
spreadsheet.
of, for folks at home, it's easier, I think, when you think of it that way, as opposed to.
We could figure it out, but I think it was.
So
It's
it's-
right there. It's on the screen.
Yeah, so it's,
Oh, I can't see that.
I made some assumptions, right? So, for $1 million override, based on the taxable value we have in town now,
Yeah.
it would increase the tax rate by 29, just over 29 cents. On a $500,000 house, 29 cents times 500,000 divided by 1,000, because it's per 1,000, is $146.46.
So $1 million override is $146.
If you have a $500,000 house.
Right.
So, again,
But again, the concern is there's no end in sight to this.
No.
And it's not solving it with a one-time override.
No. It just, it just saves,
At least at the school level. That
Right.
might be slightly different with the police.
so right now, we could be looking at a 1.2 for elementary, and then maybe 800,000 by Silver Lake, but I think they're gonna make cuts, because Halifax and Plimpton both want cuts. Everybody told them, nobody wants an override. I think they're gonna make cuts. I don't think they'll cut it all. I think there'll be an override, but I think it'll be smaller. And I really hope that Kingston Elementary can make some cuts. So, you know, if they do that, if they keep it under $1 million, and this is just me, then you're talking about 146. If you have $1 million home, then you're talking about $290 a year. So it's about 75 a quarter.
And just, I guess, maybe to echo what Mr. Pike mentioned, I mean, the board has to decide whether they want an override. The FinCom can't do that. They can't put it on the warrant. They can certainly, can potentially be a citizen petition to put something on a warrant if they wanted to do that, right? But honestly, I don't know that if the Board of Selectmen decides to put a Proposition 2.5 override on the warrant, on an article, and then doesn't support it,
Yeah.
why are you putting it on to begin with? Because it's going to show there's no support, and kind of answers the question pretty quickly for people.
No, I mean, personally, at this point, I don't support putting an override on the ballot, but,
On the warrant.
oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
See, this is where I'm having a hard time with it. I do understand why people don't want an override. My difficulty is making that decision for the entire town. And I totally understand Carl saying this is leadership, but this is also, again, this is why I would really like the schools to make the cuts that they know that they can live with. And I know that there are cuts that they can make. And they also got I call it a bonus, more Chapter 70 money, but we really need extra money from the state to cover the soaring costs that we're seeing for special ed and for the Baymont. You know, this is, it's not sustainable. We need help. I don't think we're going to get it. So I think it's going to be up to us. And I don't have kids in the schools anymore, but if I did, I certainly wouldn't want them in a classroom with 35 kids, or whatever the numbers are. I mean, I'm making numbers up, but you know what I'm saying. So again, we don't have to make this decision tonight, but any other comments about any other parts of the budget that we want to take a look at? Are there any other departments that we want to take a look at? Kim, was there anything else you wanted to ask about?
Sorry.
I had some questions, just looking at the police budget related to training and overtime, because we had added funds at special town meeting for training and overtime, and my questions were answered in that the reason there's a large increase is sort of assuming the additional folks added to the team. So should the board not support that request of adding 3 patrolmen, a deputy chief, and a dispatcher, those numbers would be different. So I guess my concern when we look at, oh, sorry, my mic was off that whole time. Hope everyone can hear me. My concern when we're looking at the budget going forward is we need to have a budget that stays under the levy limit. If we do a Prop 2.5 and it fails, we need to have something that we can function with, right? So I need budgets that show us what it is with no staff added, which I believe is what the town administrator's recommendation is, versus the budget from the department head, which includes those additional staff. So when we're looking at, typically we don't have those two things to look at the same time. We're trying to find a consensus. But should the board proceed with giving the option of an override, we would have to have the town administrator's recommended budget kind of in one bucket, and then whatever that additional cost is in that override amount. So I just want to make sure that everybody's clear about that. If they're looking at the spreadsheets at home, or if you're looking at it in your binder, you need to keep those things in mind. I don't think I had any other questions. We reviewed a lot of the questions last week. I think we went through everything. So I only had a question about the Board of Health budget, which we already talked about.
And just, if I could, while you're looking, the document that we handed out this evening that addressed the additional funding for police and fire and the school stays under the Proposition 2.5 override amount.
Yep.
So what I would suggest, to your point, I think, is if there was a desire to put a Proposition 2.5 override on the warrant, you may want to add a third column, so it specifically says what departments are being funded and for what amount if a Proposition 2.5 override was proposed and approved.
Chief, you wanted to say something?
I just had a quick question for Keith while you're going up there. Can you provide, at least to me for the newsletter, but for everyone, a list of the high-level big items that, I know this isn't dropping staff, but what is being changed? Or
Like
what's
the
being proposed
transfer
to change?
station
like
Monday
transfer?
nights and-
Can you do that for tomorrow at some point so I can post the?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll do it first thing in
Just for the
morning.
high level.
Yeah, I'll do it first thing in the morning. So what I'll address is, the number of brush cutting at the transfer station, the closing of the transfer station on Monday evenings, a couple of other small things, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay, yeah.
I can email it to you so you don't have to retype it.
Chief?
Thanks. I'm going to be brief. You talked about a lot. There's a lot to consider. We provided a litany of information for the board to consider last week. Obviously, we thought that you'd want to have that information. Out of all of that, the most glaring piece of information is the lack of growth in the Kingston Police Department, and I think that presents an officer safety issue, presents a public safety issue. Nobody knows what the future holds in terms of what the demands of police are going to be, particularly in the change in the administration in Washington, D.C. There was mention of labor units. We're fortunate enough for the working people that we live in a labor-friendly state, so this is me saying it's not the union's fault. The labor-friendly state makes it so that you have to engage in fair and reasonable collective bargaining. A lot of that stuff is regulated by State Department of Labor regulations. So you have to engage in good faith bargaining. The other thing that's at risk is when you look at what's around us for police departments, I'm not shy about talking about how good the workforce is, how good the culture is right now, but that's at risk. If you start cutting, you make the place less desirable to work. In certain ways, in so many ways, the board has provided the Kingston Police Department hope. And that is the hope of growth, that is the hope of a better way of doing things. That's at risk. So you mentioned a reduction of the 3, 1, and 1. If the board decides to give Mr. Hickey a number, we'll work within it. Myself, Laura, Keith and Kathleen have crunched numbers as recently as today just to make sure that we're all on the same page like I mentioned last week. So if you give us a number, we will work within that number. One police officer is not going to do it. We have 3 shifts. There's been zero growth since as far back as what we mentioned last week, 1998. I don't know what it's going to take to disrupt the cycle of how we're doing business, and I recognize the financial challenges, but when I say disrupt the cycle, I mean finding ways to work just within the budget without there being any growth of any substantial manner within the police department. The job has changed. You saw the numbers. If you need more, if you need me to look at it in different ways, we'll do that. And I appreciate the no votes. You don't represent me. You don't represent just the 26 sworn members of the Kingston Police Department. You represent 15,000 people, so I can appreciate the deliberations and the things that you've talked about. I mean, it is very challenging. Like I said, if you come up with a number, one's not going to cut it. I mean, like I said, we have 3 different shifts. When we added a police officer early in my time here, the determination was that we wanted that to be an officer, a traffic safety officer, and we're going to be doing that when we get the officer out of the academy and on the street. So we'll have an extra body. So I said it last week. I work for you. We all work for you. And if you provide a number, whether it's, I don't know, whatever it is, we'll work within it. But any questions?
Just want to thank you, and I appreciate the detail that you've provided us, and I just want you to know that despite my lean toward no, it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate how much value you all add, and I just want you to know that I'm thankful, so.
Well, yeah, thank you for saying that. February 8th, 2024, in this very room, you actually told me, you just tell us what you need. And I know that there is financial challenges that go with that. Not me, the group of people that are working together as a team, we're presenting statistical justification for what it is that we need. So again, if you provide a number, we'll work within that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other questions about the budget? Or comments? We've gone through a lot. We don't have numbers from the schools. I'm optimistic that they're going to come back with more reasonable numbers. I'm not optimistic that they're going to be under the 4%. But, and then obviously we're going to have a decision to make once they do that. And I'm hoping that the schools come back with their numbers, with as early as possible, right after their public budget hearings, if possible. And if there's no other questions or comments about the budget, then we'll move on. All right. And I'm assuming nobody wants to make a motion tonight? You can if you want.
To move on the proposed BOS budget?
Right. I'm suggesting that we don't, but if somebody wants to make a motion, they can feel free. And actually, we didn't really discuss whether we all agreed to the $15,000 file server to be added.
Oh, right.
I don't think we need to vote that. We can vote that when we actually vote the budget.
Right.
But just keep in mind.
Well, I guess, does it change anything for Finance Committee? Does it change anything for the town administrator?
So-
If we vote now versus in 2 weeks?
I don't think it does. Carl and I have had a couple of conversations today, just to make sure that when I presented to the board this evening, I wasn't speaking out of turn. The Finance Committee has met either 2 or 3 times now to review different departmental budgets. They meet again a week from tomorrow night. So whether the board votes tonight or the board votes at your next meeting, I don't think it slows the Finance Committee down at all.
No, but the other thing is, I think it also, it would send a strong message that this is our number. Now, this number includes a 4% increase for both, well, 4 point whatever it is, for both of the schools. So we could vote that number, and then obviously once schools do their thing, if we want to amend, we can, but that would be pushing an override. Now, if we don't want to do an override, then we would never amend that number.
But again, conceptually, we tell the schools and the town departments how much money we have to be able to spend.
Then that would be that number.
That-
Yeah, so if you want to
No,
vote,
I'm just saying
that's
that,
fine.
well, I still don't like the number, but I don't have many suggestions on how to fix it. so.
But if you're going to do it, this is the number, because
Plus
if you
the-
add the 15.
plus the 15,000.
Well, that includes the 15.
Yeah, I know.
Assuming you're for that. I am, but I just.
Just 2 comments. The Finance Committee, as Keith has indicated, is
Up here, Mike's not on, apparently.
The Finance Committee is continuing to review the budgets as they were presented. We will have been making adjustments as they come in. This $15,000 that was just discussed, we'll add that in when we review the police budget. And the other thing is, I don't want to discourage anybody, but I'm also somewhat of a realist. I would be very surprised if you had any kind of a real school budget, both local and Silver Lake assessment, before the 1st of March.
Yeah.
And that's probably being optimistic.
I'm always the optimist. I'm saying mid-February. I think Carl will probably win this bet.
Yeah, probably.
So, does somebody want to make a motion, or do we want to hold off?
He would need the number if he's going to do it. You got to add 15,000 to the 61,000.
It's
61 million, I mean.
61 million, I know, $61,475,194.
So moved?
So move to support the town administrator's recommendation before us this evening for said number.
$61,475,194.
Does that work?
Yes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, Eric, aye.
Kim, aye.
Don, aye.
Missy, aye.
Tyler, aye.
All right, so we have a budget, but like I said
It's
before.
our recommendation at this stage, right?
Right, we can change it at our next meeting. We can do what we need to do, but now at least we've set a budget
It's
number.
going to change,
Right,
always does.
there you go.
Probably by next week with dump discussions.
It's just,
That's 2
they
weeks
always,
All right,
it always
it's
changes.
town administrator's report.
So I forgot to include a town administrator's report in the document, so I apologize for that.
We know you've been busy with the budget.
Yeah, so, right now, the department head team has been working together to try to identify and meet the budget goals of the board. We also have been meeting every other week with the finance committee, and the off Wednesdays from the finance committee, we have the distinct pleasure of meeting with the capital planning committee. So, those meetings, I think overall are going well. We're providing and answering questions to the FinCon and the Capital Planning Committee with the expectation of both committees finalizing their recommendations sometime, I would assume, in March. Beyond that, I'm not sure what's going on, to be quite honest with you, so I apologize for that. But I want to thank, the department heads and everybody who's been supporting us to get us where we are tonight. It's been a challenge. We'll continue to try to address whatever questions you have, and thank you for the direction you've given us.
So I have a comment. A lot of folks in town know that the mall was purchased, a year and a half ago. The new owners had a open house that was co-sponsored by the KBA, Kingston Business Association. It was over at the mall yesterday afternoon. I went, Kim went. We had a few folks from Town Hall who showed up. There were a lot of shop owners from the mall who are there because they want to know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
They're just in the dark and very worried about their businesses. But it was a good meeting. It wasn't a presentation. It was really just an open house. They talked very briefly about sort of their vision in terms of what's worked in other parts of the country. But really, they wanted to get feedback from folks, and which I thought was good. I reiterated that the MBTA zoning did pass, but it was passed under duress. It's not like we all want 500 more apartments up there at the mall. They took note of that and said that basically they're not in the apartment or condo business. They're in retail. But that's just a subplot of what's going on. They did talk about sort of town centers, and where I grew up in Virginia, their town centers are quite popular. There's like Reston Town Center. This company actually has built one down in Richmond, Virginia, that's a town center. It's similar to what Hanover or Legacy Place, they said, but I haven't been to Legacy Place, so I can't speak to that. But it's built in such a way that it's sort of a town within a town. There's lots of greenery, a lot of grass, bushes, trees. You can walk, lots of benches,
So
restaurants.
not like Hanover then? 'Cause that's pretty much
Hanover
the
is
opposite of
open.
that.
So Hanover is open. You can walk. There's sidewalks and whatnot. But when I say it's similar to Hanover in terms of a lot of outdoor.
Outdoor.
But they also talked about indoor and maybe even a combination of outdoor, indoor. But regardless, I mean, they're talking to a lot of big companies. They're talking to, there was some discussion about grocery stores, but I think there's a limit because of Target being there that they can't bring in a grocery store.
It's also that Aldi and Market Basket are very popular and
right.
active, and I'm
Well,
not sure there are that many grocery stores that want to be that close to a
There were
very
folks
popular
asking for
grocery
Trader Joe's, Whole
Yeah, they won't
Foods.
go there.
I put in a request for a Cheesecake Factory, so you're welcome. I also said, like higher end restaurants like Capitol Grill would be great. Like
They seemed really receptive to everyone's
They did.
ideas, and there were a lot of really interesting ideas, and people had Post-its, and they put their Post-it ideas all over the pictures, and
Yep.
it was a really good conversation, and I think they're really interested in what the community is looking for and what else is sort of missing.
Right.
So I thought it was a good conversation.
The interesting thing is there were people who were there who were pushing back on outdoor and sort of a town center. But they reiterated that they've done this in Chicago. They have 2 places in Chicago, and they said Chicago is much colder and windier than it is here, and they're doing really well in Chicago. The interesting thing is Colony Place is like a wind tunnel to me. Like when you go into Panera, the door almost goes flying off. At Kingston Collection, I don't notice the wind being nearly as bad as it is over at
Although it
Colony
is
Place.
at one of the higher points in town, so.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting, but why the difference, I don't know. But anyways, they basically said that some sort of outdoor element is very popular, even in very inclement areas like Chicago, so.
Did they mention anything about when they actually want to kickstart a process, or?
They may already be in some internal discussions, but
Yeah.
they're involving the community, they're
Yeah.
trying to get feedback, so.
And they're trying not to.
They'll be keeping us up to date.
They don't want to disturb current shoppers or tenants, like, as they do things. So they're trying to do it in a way, I don't know what that means. I mean, they said they could be shuffling some of the stores around while they're building out another area. So I don't know. But there's lots of good ideas. I think the important thing for the public to know is they're going to be holding these open houses quite a bit over the next few months. So keep an eye on Facebook. I guess if we get wind of something, and also KBA, Kingston Business Association, but we should put more on our website.
And I think
as
they were
well.
talking about potentially putting something in the local paper. the
Right, right.
Clinton, Halifax, Kingston Express.
So the point is,
So
they're,
that's-
they're trying some public outreach, and folks should be, give some feedback.
Two things. First, I can't agree more. The new owners of the mall have been fantastic to work with. We look forward to working with them in the future. Bad news that we received today, the local 3-town paper is closing.
Oh,
So,
that's too bad.
That will no longer be delivered to people's homes. Sorry to say.
It's unfortunate.
All right, any other
I just
selectmen
had a-
comments?
I had a question, actually. We talked a while back about putting some signage up on the landing road and working with Duxbury. Do we have any updates on that?
It's funny, I was thinking about that last week. I don't, and I will look
Okay.
into it. I know that we were working with Old Colony Planning, and we'll see where they are with that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I will look at that.
That was the only thing I had.
Any other comments? Don, do you got anything?
No, I mean, the only thing I guess I would mention is I do plan on working with Keith on looking into our website's newsletter feed to kind of spice that up, but the reality is it's probably going to be after the town meeting.
Yeah, our website does support a newsletter.
Yeah.
And Trish and I looked at it a bit a few months ago, and, frankly, just it hasn't risen to the top of the pile.
No, yeah, I get
So
that, yeah.
we'll work on it, but I look forward to any help you can provide to us.
All right, Missy, Tyler, anything that you want to say?
No.
All
No,
right.
just want to say thanks everybody for dealing with tough issues together. And we're gonna get through it.
We will get through it. All right, our next meeting is February 11th, just before Valentine's Day, so. Yeah. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, Eric, aye.
Kim, I.
Don, aye.
Missy, I.
Tyler, aye.
All right, thank you all.